Hello on TV land. Please join me in the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. Amen. If there's a vacant seat next to you, please raise your hand to encourage those standing to take the empty seat. All right, are there any other alcoholics present? All right, cool, unanimous. This is a non-smoking meeting, including e-cigarettes and vapes. Merrill? Yay. All right. Smoking is not allowed in Manhattan Beach. We remind everyone that we're guests at this location and are lucky to be here. Please respect the no smoking rule. If you have already done so, please turn off your cell phones and other electronic devices now. Restrooms are located to my right around the building and up the ramp. The women's is a little further up the ramp from the men's. Please keep the noise down in respect for the neighbors. We record our speakers. If you'd like a recording of tonight's speaker of any of our past speakers, please see Chris to my right. If you have a court card that requires a signature, please place it in the basket, and when we do the seventh tradition, you can pick it up after the meeting. Alrighty, any person seeking help with a drinking problem is welcome at this group. No AA entity determines an individual's membership in Alcoholics Anonymous. It is the group's conscience that if any person endangers another individual or disrupts the group efforts to carry the AA message, the group may ask that person to leave the meeting. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from the disease of alcoholism. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We're self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, organization, or institution does not wish to engage in any controversy. Neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Are there any newcomers here with less than 30 days of sobriety? If so, we ask that we get to know you better at the break. Please stand, tell us your name and the nature of your disease and where you're from.
Jake, alcoholic.
Jake. Welcome. All right. All right. Will the Al-Anons with us tonight? Please raise your hands. No balloons. All right. Do we have any visitors who have not previously identified from the outside greater Los Angeles area? If so, would you like to stand and introduce yourself? Okay. At this meeting, we read a portion of Chapter 5 from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Tonight, I've asked Judy to read this for us.
Okay, Judy, alcoholic. Judy. Where is Chapter 5? Here it is. I found it. Thank you. Just testing you. No, I'm sorry. Chapter 5, how it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. They are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to be born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you decide you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many exclaim, "What an order, I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we had set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if he were sought.
Thank you, Judy. All right, our 7th tradition states that we're self-supporting through our own contributions. This allows us to pay our meeting rent, other expenses, and contributions to central office in New York. We encourage regular members of this group to donate generously. The steps are to the individual that are the traditions to the group. Tonight I've asked Carol to read the 12 traditions for us.
Carol Alcoholic. Thanks for putting it on the page, Todd. 12 traditions. Number 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on AA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. Number 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. Number 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. Number 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. Number 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. And 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Thank you, Carol. The format of this meeting is one 10-minute speaker. A little sensitive. And a coffee break, and the main speaker. Tonight our first speaker is Garret.
Garret Alcoholic. Garret. Grateful to be here, grateful to be sober, grateful to be one amongst many. It's a cool thing when we get to come out and do this together. Raoul and I have been walking this path together for a long time. We're brothers in this thing. And to have a sober story to tell and to be one amongst like an entire group of people that get it and understand. I want to welcome the newcomer. Please remember, none of us walked in here with time. We get to practice this thing one day at a time, and that's an important thing to remember in here. My sobriety date is 7/18/17, and quite frankly, I think I'm sober today because a loving and caring God showed me grace and mercy rather than justice. The big book says, more than most, the alcoholic lives a double life. To the outside world, he presents a stage character. This is the one that he wants his fellows to see, but in his heart, he knows he doesn't deserve it because of the things that he does, okay? If you took my life and you put it on a piece of paper, one side of that piece of paper says, I was a 4.0 student, I'm a 3-sport athlete, I triple majored in college, 24 years old, I started a business. At 26, I sold it to PNC Bank. I come from a really good family. I got a ton of friends. I got a really good life. If you turn that page over, it says that I've been arrested 32 times. No. First time I ever got arrested was from my DARE officer, so we knew where this path was going real fast. I've totaled 6 cars. I've been in and out of hospitals. I lost a D1 basketball scholarship. I was kindly asked to leave the islands of Hawaii by the DEA. They frowned upon the things that I was doing. They didn't like that. But the truth is, so you see the difference, right? You see like what we're doing here and like how this thing starts to affect me. But the truth is, like, none of those things make me an alcoholic. They're the consequences of some of my actions and some of the things I do, but it doesn't make me an alcoholic. What makes me an alcoholic is I have a very beautiful, big, full life today. Family, I own 2 businesses, I'm peaceful, I'm happy, I have a lot of things in my life. And I wouldn't trade any of that for the first drink. But if you put one in me, and then took the bottle and said, you got to trade it all for the next one, I promise you, I would do it. I promise you. I wouldn't even think twice. I'd take that drink. I am mind and body different than my fellows. Alcohol does something for me that it does not do for other people. It solves too many problems for me. It's magic. It makes it all go away. Immediately takes this from a 10 to a 3. And repeat it over and over and over. That's my solution. I don't have a solution outside of that, prior to Alcoholics Anonymous, of course. So I came into Alcoholics Anonymous broken, and I was not convinced that I wanted what you guys had, but I was certainly convinced I did not want what I had anymore, which is the gift of desperation and maybe the most important thing about change. Change says you got to be willing. Are you willing? Are you willing to do things that are counterintuitive? Are you willing to adopt new attitudes and new actions to try to live this new way of life? And very quickly, the road starts to narrow in Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's the message when I'm speaking tonight in a brief version. Trust me, my friend Raoul is going to dive into the darkness. But the message is the road narrows here, and thank God for that. Thank God. I came in, I had to admit that I was an alcoholic, which, by the way, I ran from that for 10 years, maybe longer. And I found out that anything you run from, you become. So I immediately tried to come in. We're in a school class here. When I was in 3rd grade and someone's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Nobody's like, hey man, I cannot wait to be an alcoholic and destroy my life, destroy my family's life, kill every relationship I've ever had, burn down a business, lose a D1 basketball scholarship, blah, 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 right? Nobody wants to do that. So the admission is the biggest part when we get here, right? And then from there, it's all a matter of willingness of what you're willing to do. I had to admit I was an alcoholic. I had to get on my knees and pray to a God that I did not believe in. I had to turn the mirror around and take a look at myself and learn how to own my part. I had to start looking at these character flaws. I had to go clean up the wreckage of the past. I had to make things right. Then I had to start giving this thing away. That is the message. Are you willing to give the gift that was given to you, right? I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why I made it. Do you know how many friends I have that did not make it? I have no idea why I'm here other than it is my job to give this thing away to the next person, to the next Garret that walks through the door and needs my story. And that is all of us have that. We are uniquely qualified to carry our message and our story to somebody else. So if nothing else, it gives us purpose. It gives us a purpose in the world today that we can always fall back on, always take the darkness and turn it into a light. And that is a true blessing and a true gift of Alcoholics Anonymous. Eventually, you start giving this thing away and things start to come together, right? I need to learn how to communicate better. I need to learn how to do this. I need to learn how to budget. I need to learn how to, and we're so far removed from the drink, the position of neutrality, as the book calls it, that now I'm like super concerned with my credit score or whatever, right? And it's like, I'm not even thinking about a drink or a drug. But the trick is, it's not how far away from the last drink I am. It's how close I am to the next one if I don't do this thing consistently. And that is what it's like today. Today, the name of the game is consistency. Today is, am I willing to take the next right step that's right in front of me and stay very consistent in this thing, knowing that everything good in my life has come from this anyway, right? Anything good in my life, parentheses or ... Alcoholics Anonymous, because of Alcoholics Anonymous, because of Alcoholics Anonymous, because of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I got to show up and be very, very consistent with this, which means daily disciplines, which means showing up even when you don't want to show up, separating the way I feel from the way I act. Is every day a good day? I don't know. But I'm sober, and I have the ability today to not be, reactive. My alcoholism works quick. It's like stub your toe, need some cocaine. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's quick. It goes quick, There's no buffer there. And today we don't have to do that. The way I feel from the way I think to the way I act, right? And I show up today. I put one foot in front of the other. When someone asks me to speak, I speak. When somebody asks me to sponsor them, I sponsor them. When somebody asks me to clean up chairs, I clean up chairs. And we practice this way of life. Now, in that consistency, and the cool thing about this is, we're not perfect, okay? I'm not a saint. I do my best. I make mistakes. But I also know that when I come to Alcoholics Anonymous, I can get better from those things. I can learn from those things, which is also the road narrowing, where we don't have to make the same mistakes twice, or we don't have to compound issues or make things worse. We live by a code. If you can't make a situation better, don't make it worse. Think about your drinking history. How many times did you make it worse? How many times were you well-intended, but did not have the action to follow through, and you make it worse? So when the road narrows here and we get better, it's not that it's not that we're perfect. That's not the message. Nobody cares. That's not the message. The message is, are you willing to show up? Are you willing to stay consistent? Are you willing to practice this thing as a way of life? And quite frankly, are you willing to own your part and own your mistakes as a sober human being and know that more is always going to be revealed either way? You want to do it as a sober person, or you want to do it as a loaded person? You want to do it as somebody who can inflict positive change on somebody's life, or you want to do it as somebody who burns it down, right? Because if you're an alcoholic like me, I don't get to live in the middle of that. I either live in the light or I live in the dark. That's just the truth. I don't know if I wish I had it the other way, but that's the only way I know. That's the only way I know. And so I practice this thing to the best of my ability, and I care about my fellow alcoholics. And then when we go out into the world, I care about those people too, right? We just try and practice this thing, practice the principles in all of our affairs. And I think the real beautiful thing in this is, like, as we sit here today, we get to be both student and teacher at all times. At all times. Doesn't matter how much time you have, doesn't matter how cool you are, how much money you make, doesn't matter. In Alcoholics Anonymous, we are constantly student and teacher, which takes us from desperation, whatever you want to call it, whatever your alcoholism looked like, not good, let's put it that way, to a place where we get to live a beautiful life, a humble life, and let our actions do the talking for us, The question I like to ask people is, if you never talked, would people know what you were about? I'm not saying they know you're sober. I'm not saying any of that. But would they know who you are? Like, would they know your character, right? And if not, ask yourself this question. Whatever you want in life, like truly want, remove the BS, remove all that. Like, what do you really want out of life, right? And then ask yourself the question, do I need to be sober to get that? I want to be a better son. You probably need to be sober. You want to be a better employee. You probably need to be sober. Whatever it is, right? And so tonight, give yourself some credit. You're taking action. We're participating in our recovery, and we're just staying sober one day at a time. Thanks, guys.
Let's thank the 10-minute speaker. All right. We have a literature pamphlets, big books, grapevines, and flyers for upcoming events at the literature table. If you need a big book, we suggest that you do not leave here without one. Please see one of us for your literature needs. We'll now have a 10-minute coffee break. Please return to your seats quickly and quietly when you hear the bell ring, and allow our main speaker the time and respect he deserves. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. So there's a little glitch in the format, and I was not aware, but we do not celebrate birthdays at this meeting. But we do honor them by having those observing their AA anniversary stand, declaring audibly their name, disease, and the number of years sober. Is there anybody celebrating a birthday tonight? What the hell, man? All right. But it's still suggested that members celebrating their AA anniversaries, or not, donate a gratitude gift. In that blue basket over there on the piano for $1 for every year of sobriety. Half of the check directly goes to general service offices in New York, and half goes to our central office. So when you find time before you go to your car tonight, put something in there. All right. Thank you for taking your seats quickly and quietly. And now please join us in welcoming our main speaker, Raoul.
My name's Raoul. I'm an alcoholic. It's good to be here. I'm grateful to be sober. Thank you for your lead, and Alan, thanks for having me out here tonight. Garrett, thank you so much, brother. You know, when I hear guys like Garrett share, it takes me back to my early recovery. We went to the 6:30 a.m. roundtable topic discussion meeting, and I was probably 30 days sober. And I'd walk there from my treatment center, and it just go around the room, and we talk about different topics, right, out of the big book, and I think there's like 100 topics that rotate, and most of them I did not understand, and I would hear guys like Garrett carry the message, and I didn't know what the message was, but I saw what his actions were. I saw what he was doing on a daily basis. I saw that he showed up consistently, and I was kind of like intrigued. You know, I had that lean-in moment where I'm like, huh, something's working in his life. So, dude, I love you, brother. Like, it's been incredible to get to know you. Then to go to the game up in the Bay, to start a business together, to just have you in my life every step of the way, man. So it's like I love my friends do Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, and when he has a victory, I have a victory. So I've got a sobriety date of June 7th, 2018. I've got a sponsor, and I've got a home group. We meet every Tuesday night. It's the Men's Stag Soup Kitchen meeting in Costa Mesa. It's 7 o'clock. If you come by, I'd love to get you a seat and maybe some cake. But I got 45 minutes, right? That's incredible. Buckle up. Okay. So I love that. The 10-minute is tough, right? The 10-minute, when you get going on 10, you're like, man, I got some stuff to say, and you got a minute left to wrap it up. So this is a little better. I'm an alcoholic, and I get to start at the very beginning. And it's funny because whenever I think about the beginning, I always think about my first experience in school. And go figure, I'm at a school right now. I was born in Peru, and I moved to the States, Orange County, when I was 4 years old. So I started in kindergarten at 4 years old, and I remember seeing home videos of myself, and I had a really thick accent. And when I would go to school, I felt like I didn't quite belong. And one of the best descriptions of alcoholism before I ever took a drink, this guy in my home group said it. It's this kid, he's probably got 6 months, and he said, you know, I just didn't know how to be. I didn't know how to be. And I get that because well before I ever took a drink, I didn't know how to be. I didn't know what it meant to go to school and to sit in the chairs and to talk about sharing. I just felt really uncomfortable in my skin and like I did not belong. And fast forward, that was kindergarten. Fast forward to second grade, I distinctly remember my uncle had meningitis. He was going to die. I'm in my mother's room that night crying, begging her not to die. Crying myself to sleep. I'm in second grade. I'm crying myself to sleep. I wake up the next day and I go to school and these kids are at school just like this and they're talking about the shows they're watching and they're talking about sharing and they're talking about what they got for lunch and they're playing and they can't wait for recess. And all I can think about is I don't want to die. Fast forward a little bit more. I was a big skateboarder and I started skateboarding around 10. So what, 4th, 5th grade? And I was the kind of dude that would play his day over every single night when I laid in bed. Does that make sense? So I'd lay in bed and I'd go over every single thing that I'd done that day. And I'd do the trick. And this time if I landed the trick, man, that would have been really dope. And if I don't land the trick and I slip back and I break my wrist, I go to the hospital, I can't play sports, and I'm still laying in bed just trying to fall asleep, wondering if there's something up in the sky. I distinctly remember that. You know, the only time I ever felt like I did belong a little bit was with sports. There was that common goal, that camaraderie, right? I'm one of many, and I excelled. That was my get down. I was a baseball player, I was a football player, and that was my track. Whenever I'm playing sports, I'm good. School, I was actually a decent student when I wanted to show up and I wanted to do that. But I'll never forget the feeling that I got when I could not play sports anymore. And I'm still fast forwarding a little bit. Like I said, you're going to get each little piece of this because I got 45 minutes to talk. But I get to high school, and I was on track to play baseball at the next level. Next level was college, right? And I'm getting looked at by the Braves. I'm getting looked at by all these scouts. I'm only 15 years old. They're calling me the Raoul Mondesi. Y'all probably remember Raoul Mondesi. He was pretty big in this area. And I decided to go snowboarding. Now, this is important because I wasn't supposed to go snowboarding. I'm an athlete. I should be only doing sports. My weekends were all sports. During the week, all sports. Everything was all sports. I'm going to go snowboarding because I want to talk to this girl. I go snowboarding. The second run of the day, I fall and I break my wrist. Instantly, I lost that connection with people. Okay, because my entire life has built up to this time where I'm only playing sports. I'm going to play sports at the next level. I'm going to play sports. I'm a baseball player. I'm going to play sports. I break my wrist. And I lost that connection with you. I lost that ability to be one of many. I lost that ability to do anything. And the very first time I ever smoked, I didn't smoke cigarettes. I didn't smoke weed. I didn't take pills. I didn't drink. I was the kind of kid that wanted so bad to fit in that I'd take that bottle and I'd put it to my lips, and I'd pretend to drink, and I knew that I was supposed to do this, and I'd put it back, but I still didn't drink because I got to play sports. So that's taken away from me, and the first time I ever smoked weed, I had a full cast on up to my arm. I'd go to practice and try to still participate, and my coach is like, "What are you doing? You can't do that." Okay, I don't have a place to belong here, so I'm just going to go party. And I say party, I remember exactly where I was. I can tell you what time it was. I can tell you the room that I was in. I can tell you that there was recessed lighting above this apartment at the complex that I was at, and the way that the light hit the bottle of Smirnoff Triple Distilled. I get chills when I think about that because, look, I love a lot of things. I love a good cigar. I love bacon. I love French fries. I love sports. I love all that stuff, but I can't tell you the first time I ever did any of that. But I can tell you the way that I felt, the way that the bottle looked, who I was with, what they were wearing. And I can really tell you in detail what it felt like when I took that first drink. I took 4 double shots. Okay, lined them up. And this time it wasn't just coming up to my mouth and putting it down. No, this time I drank it. And all of a sudden, when I took that first one, it was like, oh, okay. I'm a little taller. My accent went away. I can talk to that girl, and I want another one. Okay, I'm going to take that other one. I'm on another one. Okay, I'm going to take that. I want another one. Okay, I blacked out the very first time I drank alcohol. I know that I did some stuff that was ridiculous, to say the least. I can tell you that I woke up the next day, face down on that carpet, right below where that bottle was, and I don't remember being hungover. Could not tell you what it felt like to be hungover. The only thing I remember is thinking to myself, I cannot wait to experience that again. I cannot wait to feel the way that I felt when I took that drink. Mind you, I'm still in school. Okay, by this point, I'm like getting closer to graduating. I was going to go to Arizona State to play ball. The reason I tell you that is because from that moment on, and looking back, having worked the steps, having, gotten plugged into Alcoholics Anonymous, I know what it is. It's the phenomenon of craving. I am bodily and mentally different than my fellows. But at the time, I didn't know that. If you're new or if you're non-alcoholic, the best way I could describe this is like I've got a little pilot light inside of me. The moment that I take a drink or a drug, that light becomes a full-blown fire, and the most important thing in my life becomes keeping that fire lit. The consequences do not matter. I don't care what I'm throwing away for that second one. I will do anything to keep this fire going, and that's what was lit in me that moment that I took that drink that very first time. I can tell you every single drug I've ever done, every single drink I've ever taken, not every drink I've taken, but every drug I've done, I can tell you where I was and what I was doing and who I was with. I remember those specific moments. And about a week, it was probably about 2 weeks before I was supposed to graduate. And mind you, I was a good student. I was a ball player. I was doing everything right. Never had any issues. Being from Peru, if you know anything about Hispanic culture, it's a very proud culture. And we don't talk about our problems, right? You sweep it under the rug, and to the outside world, like, we're all good. And my teachers wanted to have a parent-teacher conference 2 weeks before I graduate. I was offended. How dare you? I already called Arizona State. I'm already in. I just have to pass these classes and I'll be okay. They bring me in, and looking back, they saw something. They were hip to this well before I ever was hip to this. But my teachers bring my parents in, and they're like, look, we're really worried about Raoul at the next level. We think that he's going to have a hard time going out of state, being young, and being on his own. And again, I was offended. I remember distinctly feeling like, how dare you? I've done so well up until this point. Delusional. I could not differentiate the true from the false, even at that moment. Right? And I was just getting started. And so I moved to Arizona, and man, it's incredible the people that I can seek out. I was in the honors dorm. It was the very first night that I got to school, and I found the 6 people that like to drink like I drink. In the honors dorm. My first night. We all bought 30 racks a month straight. And it's funny because when I started reading the big book with my sponsor, Bill talks about not drawing a sober breath, and I instantly related it to that. I had a 30 rack, and I wore it like a badge of honor that every single night, I'm going to finish this, and I'm going to do it again tomorrow. I'm going to finish this, I'm going to do it again tomorrow. And I had arrived, like that was my get down, and I was okay with that. School was out the window. I remember going to play, I was playing long toss because I still had this idea that I'm going to play ball, and this coach walks by. He's like, hey, man, you going to walk on? I'm like, yeah. In my head, I said yes, but all I could think of was like, what are we doing tonight? What am I going to do tonight? And the my story, as most of us are, is characterized by the build and burn. I'm really, really good at building my life up. I'm extremely good at burning it to the ground. And it started from that first drink that I took. And I remember being in Arizona, and within 3 semesters, I had flunked out. I wasn't able to go to class. It was an inconvenience. And again, Bill's story was great, because when he talks about almost being too drunk to show up to his law final, I remember that. I took calculus for a whole semester. I had like a C, so all I had to do was get like a decent grade on it, and I would have passed. And that day came, and I just couldn't leave my room. I couldn't. I knew that I should. I knew that if I fail this class, I'm going to be out of school, and I could not leave the room. And you start to hang out with different people, and it's incredible. When I look back now, having been sober for a little bit, I start hanging out with these people, and I think that it's situational, that my problems are situational, right? I'm hanging out with the wrong crowd. I'm 19, 20 years old, and all of a sudden, there's things involved. There's other drugs involved, right? Because in high school, I dabbled in weed. I thought I was cool. I was going to sell a little weed here and there, nothing major, but I thought I was a real big deal. I get out there, and like, it's not a big deal, but we're going to start selling other things, and it's not a big deal. We're just going to start selling other things. It's not a big deal. They have some guns. It's not a big deal. There's a gun right there. I get charged with my first felony at 19. 2 felonies. Now, it's not a big deal because it was an assault and it was a robbery and it was situational. If you knew the situation, you'd understand that it wasn't a big deal, right? So I get in trouble, I get arrested. They're like, it's your first time getting into trouble to show back up on this date. And that's asking a lot to show back up on a date down the road. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then? And sure enough, I don't show up to that date, and I'm out one day, and things are getting a little bit, we'll call it violent, and the cops show up, and I end up having a warrant out for my arrest, and I get arrested. I get page 2'd for the stuff that I had done. And by the, I'm going to say grace of God, don't get turned off if you don't believe in God, or if you had a hard time believing in God when you got here, because I relate to that. But now I can say, by the grace of God, those felony charges that I had, due to a clerical error, became misdemeanors. And I'm like, wow, how lucky is that? My situation is improving. So it's the environment that I'm in. If I can just move from Arizona to a different place, a fresh start, a new start, I'll be okay. So I moved down to San Diego, specifically Pacific Beach, okay? Because that seems like a nice, calm place to just relocate at 20 years old. So I moved down there, and it's incredible. It's incredible how quickly I got arrested and how baffled I was. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, how? You know what it feels like when you're locked up and you're in the back of the cop car and you're like, what? How did I get here? I was really, really confused. I was really baffled, and I'd lived in San Diego for all of a month. Barely turned 21 years old. Another felony charge. This time it was sales. Okay, and at this point I realized quickly it was San Diego that was the problem. Okay, if I leave San Diego and go back to Orange County to my mom's house where I'm safe, I'll be okay. Well, I had to go back down to court, and it was a felony charge, but it was weed, so I was like, it's not that big of a deal. I'll be all right. I show up that day, and guys and gals, I will kill to keep this self-image that I have up to you. Does that make sense? I will do anything for you to think that I'm something that I think I am, when in reality I'm a scared little boy. So I'm going into this court date, and I tell my buddy Casey, you know Casey, I'm like, hey man, I might go away for a little bit, and can you take care of my family? Like, I don't take care of anything in my life. I've got no money. I've got no car. I'm in my mom's car, and I'm thinking now, looking back, what's he going to take care of? Like, with what? I'm not giving him anything to take care of. And I go up, and the DA is like, hey, we're not going to press charges. Have a nice day. What are the chances of that? It's such good luck, right? So I get to go to Orange County, fresh start. And this one was, it was tough when I got arrested this time, because I'd been doing my best to be on the straight and narrow. I wasn't selling drugs. I wasn't drinking that much. I mean, I was drinking at home, but not out in public. I had a job at Men's Warehouse. I got a job at Wells Fargo. I'm doing the right thing. And one day I get pulled over right in front of my house, and they're like tossing my car around. I'm like, how dare they? I'm finally doing the right thing, but they found a little something in there that's like not supposed to be in my car. And again, I was baffled. And look, this story continues on. At that point, I was in my early 20s. I'd already been charged with 3 felonies, and by the grace of God, I'd gotten by with just a slap on the wrist and a little bit of time served. And I start to do this thing where it's this place that's the problem, I'm going to move. It's this place that's the problem, I'm going to move. It's her that's the problem, I'm going to move. That boss, he looked at me the wrong way. The job's the problem, I'm going to switch jobs. And I distinctly remember moving up to San Francisco. I was good for a little bit, and I moved back down to Orange County, and I just can't keep a roof over my head. At this point, the most important thing in my life is to keep that feeling going on a daily basis. And you know what I'm talking about, right? Whether it's the shakes, whether it's dope sick, whether it's just needing a bar, I get that. I know what it feels like, where that's the most important thing in my life, and everything else goes out the window. I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not taking care of my nothing else matters. And they talk about the 4 horsemen: terror, bewilderment, frustration, despair. And that's how I woke up every single day. Every single day I'd wake up, think, how am I going to do life today? All right. And I had this plan where I'm going to kill myself. And this time it means business. And man, I get chills when I think about how much my story is like Bill's, because he talks about this. Like at the beginning, he laughs at the people that would jump off the towers of high finance. I just need another drink and I'll have courage to do battle again. And I felt that way, and then all of a sudden, I'm here, and I'm suicidal, and I've got a plan, and I've got the gun, and I'm going to do it when they're out of town so I can not be found by any... And then I wake up again, and I'm like, how am I going to do this again? And the mind and body are marvelous mechanisms because mine endured this for some time. This was around 2016. I started to get DUIs. I was at a job for at most 2 weeks because I'm really good at telling you what you need to hear. Master manipulator. You need a bartender? I'm the best bartender you've ever had. You need a teller? Cool. You need something that I don't know how to do? I'm going to tell you how good I am at doing that thing just so I can get my foot in the door. The moment that you give me the keys to whatever it is you're holding, I'm going to rob you blind. And this is just my MO. I'm just cruising, right? And they talk about step one experiences in the book. Look, I had many step one experiences well before I ever stepped into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And towards the end of my my drinking career, if you will, I was homeless. I couldn't keep a roof over my head. I hadn't seen my family in years. And my family's everything to me. You know, those that know me, when I say that, they're baffled. It's funny. I had someone ask me the other day, have you ever been to jail? And I was like, am I that far removed to where that doesn't seem like something I've ever done? I'm like, yeah, I've been once or twice. But I get to this point, right, where I can't live. I just can't live. I don't know how to live. That thing that I said in the beginning, I don't know how to be. Every single day, I'm wondering, like, what am I going to do? You know, and I'm living in anyone that knows Costa Mesa, there's a strip, it's called Newport Boulevard. There's a bunch of motels there, and there's a lot of motels that you can get without an ID. I don't have an ID, right? Again, I still think I got it going on. When I tell you this, I'm like the man. You know, and if you see me and you meet me, I'm going to tell you I'm the man. And I'm about 135 pounds soaking wet. And I'm jumping from motel to motel. And my best thinking tells me that, look, you're really good at getting jobs, but that's an inconvenience. And situationally, you don't need a job. You just need to go back to selling whatever it is you need to sell so you can keep that roof over your head in the motel and you can keep feeling well and you'll figure it out. You know, and I had this this moment of brief clarity. And I say that because looking back, it took me a while to realize that I had this moment. I was sober for a little bit. The drugs had cleared up. And I was walking in the motel room, and I'm walking, and I see this, and you guys know the motels, right? So I'm walking, and there's a mirror on the wall, and I look over, and I catch a glimpse at myself, and for the very first time in my life, I was truly scared. I looked at myself, and I didn't recognize myself, but I knew I was looking at myself, and I saw my eyes, and I was like, oh my God, I can't stop. And I say, oh my God, right? Anytime I needed help, anytime my life was in a state of emergency, oh my God, God please, God help, God please. And the moment I get out of that, I go right back to living my life the way that I know how to live. So what do I do in that moment? I go in the bathroom, I take a shot. I go in the bathroom, and I take a pill. I go in the bathroom, and I smoke some more. I'm like, okay, I'll be all right. And my best thinking, and we always laugh about this now, I'm not a very smart guy, okay? My best thinking when I'm out there is to sell stuff on Craigslist. Okay? And I can tell you this now, for the first few years of my sobriety, people are like, dude, that's like really stupid. I'm like, well, that's my story. I go on Craigslist and I sell stuff because I'm slick. Okay? I've got enough cell phones to keep them guessing. And if I have someone else do it for me, I won't get in trouble. And it just so happens that morning I go and I'm like, I need money. I don't have any money. I'm going to post something on Craigslist. They're going to come. They're going to buy it. I'll be able to get a motel for one more night and I'll be okay for one more night. And by the grace of God, that day, I happened to sell something to someone that was law enforcement. You know, and this is an incredible thing because, again, my self-image, I'm going to die to preserve this in front of you. The guy that I had with me that I was like, oh, he's my courier, right? The guy that does this stuff for me. He comes back to the car. He's like, hey, did you know those people? I'm like, yeah, of course I did. I'm not an idiot. And he's like, okay, well, there's people coming up to the car now. And I had no time but to turn, and there's the Costa Mesa PD, the task force, guns out. I'm talking like 15, 16. You'd think I was El Chapo. With how many people were there, and I wasn't looking back. Like, he had his gun at my head, and I'm just like, huh? Okay, cool. In that moment, there was a sigh of relief. I was like, oh, finally. I don't have to figure out where I'm going to sleep tonight. I don't have to wonder if I'm going to eat. Because like at that point, it's like, do I stay well or do I eat? Because only one of these things is happening. And I get arrested. And I've been arrested many times to where I go to Theo Lacey and one of the CEOs is like, hey, maestre, long time no see. Okay. So I really believe this, okay? And hear this the right way. I think that one of the first things rebuilt in an alcoholic is their ego. At least that's my experience, right? Because I get there and I'm broken. I get there, I'm spiritually, mentally, physically broken. And then I start to work out. And the kick was bad. Don't get me wrong. Like, I've kicked before. I tried so many times. Yeah, if I have subs, if I have this, if I have that, I'll be okay. But this time, it was something different. There was this mental anguish going on inside of me that I just couldn't kick. It was like this was going on. And I knew that I was done forever. Okay? But check this out. My ego's getting rebuilt each day. I start to get on like the welfare packs. I had money on my books, but I was so spun out I didn't realize it. So I'm just scraping by. I'm doing what I can. I'm working out. I'm programming because I'm really good when I have a task. You tell me, I'm a sports guy. You tell me what I need to do and I'm going to do it. Give me the rules and I'm going to play within the rules. And I start to get my weight back, get a little color in my face. And I've been in there for about 3 weeks, a month because my case was going to take a long time. This time I was charged with 3 more felonies and these were serious. It was like transport, conspiracy, and sales. And they had me dead to red, right? And it was the day before I had to go to early court. Anyone's been to early court, they get you up at like 3:30 in the morning. It sucks. It's cold. I'm sucked up. It's probably the worst day I've ever had. I come back that night because I didn't get to see the judge that day. And one of my cellies is like, hey, man, I've got something that's going to take all that away. I'm like, okay, cool. Look, I told you I was done forever, and I meant it. I meant it. See, and this is where people are like, how does that make sense? Well, because in the moment, you could have given me a lie detector test, and I say to you, I'm never going to drink again, and I meant it. I meant it. The problem is I couldn't bring with sufficient force the memory, suffering, humiliation of a week or a month or a week ago. I was without defense against that first drink. Right? I can tie that in now, but I didn't know what that meant then. All I knew is I see what I like to do. I'm going to do it. And then I'm back on my bunk like this, waiting for morning to come. And I get in front of this judge. And mind you, like, I'm going away for 5 years, Mando. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. This is what I did. I've got a long list of times that I should have been to prison. And this is finally, the jig is up. And I'm sitting there, and I'll never forget this. And you know my father. My dad is one of the nicest men you'll ever meet. I've seen my dad cry twice in my life. When his dad died, when his mom died. Okay? And I'm in there, I'm in my orange jumpsuit, I'm chained up, and I'm behind the box, and I'm like, he's the only one that showed up. Mind you, I have a big family, and he's the only one that showed up. He's the only one that was there. And I'm like, Dad. And most people would think I'm trying to get his attention to say sorry. I just want him to look up so I can get some money on my books. That's it. Don't care. I just want him to look up. And the judge sees this and he's like, hey, man, do you not see what's happening here? Like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, what? He's like, you're breaking that man. You can physically see that he is about to break. And you're sitting here just asking for money because all I care about is me. And by the grace of God, that judge, for whatever reason, he gave me time served. He gave me 3 years of formal high supervision probation, which I was 31 when I got sober. I've been on some form of supervision since I was 18. And I've never successfully completed, so that was fine. And then he says, hey, man, and you got to go to rehab, 90 days. You have to go to treatment for 90 days. And honestly, I was weighing out pros and cons. Prison, treatment. Because my entire life, I knew that my mom would say, eso es para malogrados, meaning that's for broken people, right? And you're not broken, son. Like, okay, but like, let's look at the facts here. And so I took the deal. And that was, you'd think like, okay, cool, you took the deal, you're going to be sober, congratulations. No, I took the deal because I knew if I get my car back, I had a hiding spot that they definitely didn't find. And if I could get to that hiding spot, there's a little something there that I can do and I'll get the courage to do battle again. If I could just get back to that car. And by the grace of God, it was impounded. They had all these holes on it. There was no getting back to that car. I went to my father's house that night. I hadn't stepped foot in my dad's house in probably a decade. You know, and I'm sitting there. And this is much more profound now that I have a son, because I remember laying there in bed and I see all these pictures of my dad has all these pictures of me growing up, baseball. He has all the newspaper articles. He has all this stuff. And I'm just sitting there looking at all this stuff. And I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I know if I get a phone, I can call her, I'll be okay. You know, but God had another plan for me. And my parents picked me up. They took me to this place called Joshua House, but on the way in, I didn't have anything. Everything I owned was in that car that got impounded that I never saw again. Could fit it in 2 trash bags. And we stopped at Kohl's because I needed clothes. Okay, and I'm in the dressing room because my mom's like, okay, you can pick out one shirt, you can pick out a pair of shorts, and you can get some shoes. And I go in there, and I take off my shirt, and I'll never forget the way that my mom looked at me. She looked at me, and she just started bawling. And I can only imagine what that would feel like seeing my son now as an adult, your baby that you bring into this world that is now broken shell of what he used to be. And I think about that a lot, you know, especially when I got to make amends to my mother. But I get to treatment and I'm scared. That same scared little boy that was there in the beginning that I talked about, doesn't fit in, wants to run, is afraid to die, is just full of fear, came right back because my solution, which is drugs and alcohol, had been taken. So now I'm in this position where I have to go to a meeting. That's terrifying. And when I said it was a room like this, it was a Newport club. I got sober in June. It was really hot. The AC doesn't work very well. And they take me in and I'm shaking. And I look around and I'm like, man, I don't know if I can do this. I'm profusely sweating. When I say this, not a joke. My friends make fun of me for this because they remember, right? The guys that were there in the beginning. It was like somebody had a sponge over my head and they were squeezing it every 10 seconds. And it was over my eyelids sweat. I was that uncomfortable in my skin. And I heard this gentleman share. And he sat at the podium. And the snippets that I heard were he'd been sober for 2 years. I don't know about that. When he talked, people listened. They went up to him after the meeting. They gave him a hug. He smiled. They seemed genuinely happy to see him. And this was a monumental shift from the world that I had come. I don't remember smiling or laughing for the last 5 years of me being out there. I don't, because I thought it was a weakness. Okay? They do this, and I was just baffled is a good word for it. So I go, and I come back the next day. And I was peaked. It was peaked a little bit, but I had other ideas. I'm like, I'm still going to sell drugs. I'll just try to stay sober. So I go, and I see this guy, and he says to me, hey, man, you got to get a sponsor. And this guy was like, he was from Garden Grove. He spoke my language is a good way to put it at the time. He's like, yeah, dog, get a sponsor. You get a phone, level up. I'm like, all right, I don't know about the sponsor, but I need a phone. And I can definitely convince my mom to give me a phone if I stay sober long enough, so I get a sponsor. And look, now I'm going to get into, I think I got about, till 8:45, right?
Yeah, about another 14 minutes.
Perfect. All right, rock and roll. Awesome. Okay, I thought I had less time. That's perfect. So I get this sponsor guy. I show up the next day, and he's like, hey, call me at this time, and we'll start working some steps. And look, I'm great at telling you what you need to hear, even in treatment, okay? Because I was there for 93 days. In those 93 days, I got up to step 3 with the sponsor, the guy that took time out of his life, out of his family to come and break down the book with me. And check it out. I know how to read, but I couldn't. I'd been doing drugs for so long, I'd been drinking for so long, that when I sat there and I tried to read, I had a hard time retaining what I was reading. So you have to break it down word by word by word by word. And the whole time, the only reason I was doing this was to be a good treatment person. Because the moment I got out of there, I never called that man again. And it was about 93 days in. I went to sober living because I was out of options. I had 1 month's worth of rent. It was 4 guys in a little bedroom, little roaches everywhere. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do the sober living thing. And man, have you ever been to a concert? I'm sure you have. So you go to a concert and the music's really loud. And then you get home and it's quiet, but you still have that like buzzing in your ear. That sense of like it's about to, boom, they're about to really turn it up. That is what I felt like at 93 days sober, celibate, because I hadn't done any work. And I got really scared. And by the grace of God, I decided to ask a man to sponsor me. I saw this guy at that morning meeting that I go to. He talked about shooting up pre-workout and lighting his garage on fire to escape these people that were following him. And he took a year, and I'm like, that's the guy. That's the dude that I want to sponsor me. So he did. Look, I got down to work. Okay? Step one, admitted I was powerless over alcohol and that my life is unmanageable. It's a two-part step. And look, I have a history of me being powerless over this because a sane person wouldn't do the things that I've done over and over and over and over again. And whether it's thinking it's going to be different this time or knowing it won't be and still doing it anyway, that's insanity. Part two of that is unmanageability. And he broke it down plain as day. He's like, look, man, page 52, the bedevilments, it's like a checklist of your life. Is it unmanageable? Personal relationships, I don't have any. Check. Prey to misery and depression every day, morning, night? Check. I couldn't seem to be of real help to others? Check. Boom. That's unmanageable, big dog. Move on to the next step. And this is where, Jake, we were talking about this. I had a problem with God. I grew up Catholic, and I had this idea that God is this guy in the sky that keeps track of everything I've ever done, good and bad. And I've only done so much good. I've done way more bad, and if there is a hell, I'm going to it. So that God, I'm cool with. I don't need that. And he's like, hey, man, check this out. Whatever you're doing landed you to this spot. Did you mean to get here? Did you mean to meet up with me on a Tuesday night at 7:30 to work steps? I'm like, no. He's like, okay, so it sounds like you need some good, orderly direction in your life. Or a group of drunks, right? And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. It's a big hoop to jump through, right? Came to believe that a power greater than me could restore me to sanity. Step 3, because I'm such a smart guy, was really tough. Made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood him. What if I don't know God? What if I don't have a relationship with God? How do I do that? I've got free will. I've got all this stuff. He's like, hey, man, check this out. Why don't you turn your thoughts and your actions over to good, orderly direction? I'm like, whoa, that I can do. He's like, if God were to look down, whatever you believe in, would he smile? I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I can do that. Still don't believe in God, but I can do that. Step 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory. This is the one that gets people like, oh my God, I got to put all this deep, dark. Look, check it out. As far as businesses go, I was broken. I needed to get down to causes and conditions. And if I am a business and I expect to be profitable, I need to put down what I have on hand, good and bad. So I start to put this stuff down without even realizing I'm doing it. He's telling me, hey man, just write this. Okay, hey man, just write this. Hey man, just write this. Resentment, I thought, was just being pissed off at someone. No, it's sentiri, which is to feel, and re is to do something again. So I've been living in resentment well before I ever took a drink, and I didn't even realize it. And the only thing that was just consistent throughout all that is me. So I put this stuff down on paper, not thinking it's going to make any difference. And then I have to tell someone in step 5, right? Why? Because the self-appraisal was insufficient. I had lived through every single thing that I'd ever done. I'd lived through every single person I'd ever hurt, but I'd never told anybody about that. So in step 5, I decide to, that guy we meet at Starbucks, and I'm like, I got a couple that are close to the chest that I'm not going to tell. I will not tell him this. And something, call it God now, right before I walk in, he's like, hey man, what's the worst that could happen? So I tell him, and he's like, that's it? I'm like, yeah. All right, cool. Go back to your sober living. Pull down this book, read about it, try to meditate for an hour and see what happens. And I go and I lay in my bed and I fell asleep. And I'd be lying to you. I hear people say, I felt like this weight was, the only relief I felt was that I didn't have to do my 4th step anymore. That's the only relief I felt. Other than that, I felt like for the first time in my life, I have been humbled before God. And thank God for 6 and 7, because now I'm aware of these defects of character, of these shortcomings that I can turn over to this God that may or may not exist. And then 8's about willingness. Became willing to make amends to people. Became willing. He's like, hey, bro, that 4th step that we did, it's like a perfect little layout of all the people you've hurt. Let's just start putting them into columns of like people you're going to make amends to, people you refuse to, people you might. And we'll start doing that. And then 9, made direct amends wherever possible. This one was, I balked on this one almost as long as my 4th step. I had the letters written out. He's like, you're very emotional. Let's write this down on paper so you don't mess this up. You're not saying sorry. You are not saying sorry, because the word I'm sorry lost its meaning a long time ago. If you say you're sorry and then you do the stuff you're saying sorry for, then it's just words. Actions. Action is what's going to save the day. So I decide I'm going to take the action. I'm going to write these letters. I'm going to go to a step study with a bunch of dudes down at this mission in San Diego. I'm going to be driving back. And I have these 3 people in my life that I need to make amends to. The first one's my mother, my sister, and my brother. And I stopped to pick something up from my mom's house. And guess who's there? Who's never there? My mom, my sister, and my brother. You know, I got to make this right with them. And to say it was emotional, I'm like a raw nerve flapping in the wind. Okay, the slightest thing sends me off. I cry all the time. I still do. I have no problem with that. But getting to make that right with my family, I cried the entire drive home from San Clemente to Costa Mesa. Never been able to feel so free, and that's why they're called the Freedom Steps. I started to be able to look them in the eye again. My mom, after taking, all she asked for was, Mijo, just call me once a day. Not any money, she wants me to call her. And guys, I'd be lying to you if I said that's not hard some days. You know, and then 10, I continue to take personal inventory, and when I'm wrong, I promptly admit it. That's the tough one. I remember calling you about 3 years into this thing, and I'm like, hey, man, this is what happened at work. Can you believe it? How dare they? He's like, hey, dog, I'll never forget that. I was sitting in the parking lot, and he's like, are you about the theory of what we do here? Or are you about the actual action of what we do here? And I was like, oh, my God, I'm going to go make this right. I called her up, and it was a boss of mine at the time, and I called her like 10 times. And she picks up, she's finally like, what? I'm like, I just got to make something right. She's like, okay, I'm working. Let's talk later. But it's like, I got to fix it when in the moment. 11, how am I going to go from the guy that doesn't believe in God, that doesn't believe in any of that stuff, to prayer and meditation? And I do that. About 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night. I hit my knees. In the beginning, this guy told me, he's like, hey, dude, you don't have to believe in it. Just in the morning, say something mindful, like, please, help. And at night, say something mindful, like, thank you. I was like, all right, that's cool. And it's evolved. And 12 is the absolute highlight of my life. I get to carry this message to someone, like you said, we're all uniquely qualified to help somebody that's going through the worst time in their lives. That's losing stuff, that's losing people, that's losing everything, that's losing hope. And they get to come in here and they get to hear somebody carry a message of depth and weight that they can relate to and be like, oh my God, maybe it is possible. Because in the book, it says it right there in the beginning. We have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show precisely how we have recovered. It's in italics because it's important. So I work these steps. I continue to work these steps. I continue to take men through these steps. And what it's like today, how much time do I have? Sorry. 5 minutes. Perfect. Okay. I continue to work these steps. Right? And I love when I hear guys with time talk about like real life stuff. You know what I mean? Because like I've worked these steps. I have an incredible life today. Right? I have this thing that I never found in a drink or a drug. Because every single time that I took a drink or a drug, I was hoping to just be okay. I wanted some serenity. I wanted some peace. I wanted some hope. I wanted a little bit of that. Through working the steps, through finding a God that I could do business with, I found those things. I have a design for living today that really works. And I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a son. I'm a brother. I get to be a business owner. And these are all these are things that if I had written down that first year what I want to get out of sobriety, I would have sold myself so short because all I wanted was a job, a car, and a girl. A wallet. Maybe some cash. Things I didn't have, right? And just to get current, right? Because I appreciate guys that get vulnerable. I tell you, it's like our superpower. It's the ability to get vulnerable. This is hard. This isn't just great. Look, I can pitch a really good message. I can tell you how incredible life is, and it is. But that does not mean it's not tough. That does not mean it doesn't get hard, okay? We've lost people in this thing, okay? My wife's pregnancies have been tough. That first one was one of the hardest, and I didn't realize it. I didn't realize how tough it was. Emergency C-section, all this stuff's happening, and it just happened so quickly. It was Garret that was able to like identify, like, hey man, I got you. Like, what do you need? He starts meal prepping for me. Because I was just, did I eat? Did I shower? I don't know. Life gets tough, okay? Things are going to come up. It's not perfect. There are days that I wake up and my first thought, pardon my language, is fuck. That's my first thought. Before anything else, it's how am I going to do today? How am I going to get by today? How am I going to live today? And I start future tripping and I'm like, hey man, it's just this moment. It's just this next action. It's just the routine that I learned in those first 30 days that carry me through the tough days, right? And I wouldn't trade this for the world. And I hear guys say that all the time. I wouldn't trade my worst day drinking for or whatever. You know what I'm talking about, right? I wouldn't trade that for this. I'm like, look, I had some pretty good times drinking. I had some pretty good times using drugs. I wouldn't say, but this is lasting. The slow burn process that I've had through working the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous with the sponsor, continuing to carry this message, continuing to go back and telling people, hey, there is hope. Hope. We always say a visceral hope for nothing in particular. Think about that. I'm the kid that when I'm in bed in fourth grade and it's summertime, I can't wait for it to be Christmas. And at Christmas time, I can't wait for it to be summer. And when it's this, I can't wait. I can never be truly present. And yet today, I have found that. I have the ability to be present in this moment. I'm not thinking about tomorrow. I mean, obviously, I got kids, so I got to think about that. But I'm not tripping about tomorrow. I'm not just lost in yesterday. I can sit here in this present moment. I'm okay with unresolved issues. Whoa. Think about that. I'm okay with unresolved issues. I'm the kind of dude that needs to fix it. I need to fix it. I need to fix it. I need to know. I need to fix it. And today I'm like, okay, maybe everything's playing out exactly as it should be. Nothing happens in God's world by mistake. So I'll close with this. If you're new, thinking about being new, all that stuff, or if you just need to dive back into this, about when I took my 6 years, I decided to recommit because it's so easy to get these things back in life and to just coast. I've got an incredible life. I can just coast. This isn't for people who want it because I wanted to get sober for a long time. This isn't for people who need it because I needed to get sober for a long time. It's for people that do the work. And it's like, what am I willing to do today for my recovery? I'll tell you, I'm willing to drive an hour and a half to come up and speak to you fine folk, right? I'm willing to pick up the phone when it's 1,000,000 pounds. I'm willing to extend and think, what can I pack into this instead of take? Because that's it, man. I'm a taker. I really am. My first thought is always that. I'm not responsible for my first thought. I'm responsible for my first action. So I really thank you so much for having me out here tonight. Thanks.